And now it's time for the Impact Wrestling Report. Here's your host, Mathew Shaffer.
Este es el informe de Lucha de Impacto. Mi nombre es Mathew Shaffer. This is the Impact Wrestling Report. My name is Mathew Shaffer. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Mathew_Shaffer. And you are tuned in tonight for the Impact Report from Mexico. Okay, I'm not in Mexico, but Impact Wrestling was live from Mexico a couple days ago. They recorded it, and now we're watching it, and I'm going to give you the full report. Again, you're watching this video right here on One Wrestling Video. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, and you will be notified when One Wrestling has more content for you. That's right, you'll also get content from Big Ray Hernandez, Rick Vickery, Michael Jargo, and the world famous Bill Apter. Of course, let's get rocking and rolling. You came here to get your fast action pass, Lucha Libre. I stumble over my R's, and it was kind of hard. I had to rehearse that. Es el informe de Lucha de Impacto a couple times, but fortunately I have the intelligence of a somewhat mild-mannered, somewhat regular IQ of an individual. Now I can't even put coherent sentences together. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get right to it. Of course, I do apologize. I have not been here the last couple weeks. I actually had my wisdom tooth pulled, so I've been going through a lot of dental pain. But I'm going to push through the numbness tonight, and we're going to bring you this full breakdown. So Impact Wrestling starts off with, of course, a full recap of last week's shows. Of course, the ongoing saga, of course, now between LAX and the OGs there ceased fire, but it will conclude at Bound for Glory. We did get an answer. We also got Tessa Blanchard in the ongoing struggle to show that she is the dominant knockouts champion or the dominant knockouts female wrestler that itself. But tonight's not special, but tonight's Impact starts out. Well, it is a special. It's from Mexico. Tonight's episode of Impact starts with OVE, Sammy, Jake, and Dave taking on Aerostar, Hijo del Vicano, and Laredo Kid. Now, no messing around here tonight. We kind of kick things off with some trios action. Immediately it breaks down into a big brawl. We then see Laredo work over Dave and hit an Enziguri and knock him out to the outside, onto the floor. Jake went ahead and cut him off and laid into the kicks himself. Aerostar was able to hit a Hurricanrana, and he was able to cut off Sammy with a huge power bomb. Vicano came in, and then Sammy Callahan actually was able to get back up, and he was able to cut him off with a bicycle kick. Vicano then fought back, and he was then able to hit a triple apron bomb after he was caught by the OVE itself. So he jumped off the turnbuckle, was caught by OVE, triple apron bomb was hit. Aerostar then dives off Kid's shoulders as he heists up and wipes out OVE. So like a lot of brawling around the ring. This kind of went back and forth. Conclusion of the match kind of saw basically everyone seeing their finishers after kind of it broke down, but OVE hit that triple tombstone. The faces kicked out. They and then basically OVE, Sammy, Jake, and defeated Aerostar via pin after they all hit their finishers as well. Just a lot of back and forth action, what you might expect for a 6-man tag, but it was of course fast and furious to get the crowd started. It was only about 8 or 9 minutes, I believe, so kind of typical on par with Impact Wrestling's match length itself. So not too bad. I liked it, and it was kind of good for me at least to kind of get get back into the swing of things as far as I've been watching Impact. I've been keeping up with Impact the last couple weeks. We then go backstage and we see Matt Sydal, who meets with Rich Swan. Basically, Matt Sydal kind of goes through this whole thing of like, I'm still here to help you. I'm here to open your third eye. And Rich Swan, though, still hates him, basically, and he doesn't want to work with him. Sydal offers for him to tag with him, so that way they can go one-on-one later, either with the Lucha Bros. And Rich Swan agrees it's a good opportunity, but he says he still doesn't trust him, and basically says, don't mess this up. We then are in the back room, and I'm going to butcher some names here, so I apologize. I think it's Ashik Tormenta prepares in the locker room as Tessa arrives and runs her down, basically, for kind of like sitting in her seat. Kind of a parody of what the... I believe it was the Flip Gordon and Christopher Daniels backstage incident that happened earlier this year. So that was kind of interesting. They let it play out on TV. However, Tessa, after basically shooing her way Fabi Apache arrived, and she told Tessa, basically, you got to show respect. And that's kind of how that segment ended. We then saw Eli Drake. He comes out to the ring, cuts the promo about how he's the best. Dummy, yeah. He issues a open challenge. Trevor Lee makes his way out to the ring. So we get Eli Drake versus Trevor Lee. Now Drake attacks him. He lays the boot to him. Let's see, Lee fights back. He lays in his kicks and strikes, but Drake cuts him off. Lee sends him to the floor. Drake slammed him into the apron and then threw him back into the ring. He then hit a leg drop off the top ropes. Lee came back and he hot-shotted himself off the top ropes, and he hit a backbreaker for a 2 count. Trevor Lee then followed up with a couple chops and kicks. He then went to attempt to choke out Eli Drake. However, Drake fired back with a lariat, and then he slammed Lee down by the hair, and he hit a power slam. Lee then tried to roll him up for a cradle by pulling up the tights. Drake kicked out, picked him up, hit the gravy train. 1, 2, 3. It was about a 3-4 minute match. I don't have a stopwatch. I'm just guessing on when I started, looking at the clock when I stopped. Eli Drake wins. Drake actually, though, has been winning week after week after week. Now, they might not have been the most strongest competitors. Trevor Lee seems to have been the first actual notable wrestler as of late that Eli Drake has been going one-on-one with. It's actually interesting. It lets me know that Impact Wrestling is listening to us, because I have been harping the fact that I wanted to see Eli Drake get pushed, and they have been pushing him now. Slowly but surely, they're rebuilding Eli Drake. He's just a dominant guy who comes out and beats everybody. So, can't complain about that. We then go to King and the OGs, and they're talking backstage, and they basically want to break the ceasefire with LAX. King says he's going to wrestle tonight, and he's going to show these young boy marks, and Conan, so he's referring to Santana Ortiz as marks, how it's done. We then go out to that ring, and it's King versus Kronos. This was like an under a minute match, maybe 30-40 seconds. King offered him a handshake. OGs attacked him really quick before the bell even ringed, or I guess the bell rang. And then King had a spinning back fist, and he won. So King defeated Kronos. This was, of course, just to kind of lead up to a post-match promo. In this sense, Conan and LAX are in their clubhouse as LAX rants about Conan. Because basically King goes out to the ring after that match and he's cutting a promo, but LAX doesn't respond. So back in that clubhouse, LAX is ranting. Conan says that King disrespected him, that they want to take care of business. But Conan says that he's been stabbed, shot, burned, kidnapped, and left for dead. He says the OGs and King can talk all they want, but if they break the ceasefire, the bosses will take them out permanently. Conan says they will wait for Bound for Glory and get their revenge there. Now, of course, I have not given you a report the last couple weeks, but the events that took place where that the mob bosses, the street bosses, decided that these guys can't be fighting every week. It's bad for business, and bad, of course, that a child got hit and is barely breathing. The child's fine. So they are going to conclude their rivalry at Bound for Glory. We then go to our next match with Fabi Apache versus Alicia Edwards. They lock up, and I want to say they actually gave Alicia Edwards about 5-6 minutes this time, so that was, let her move around in the ring, I guess, with the more veteran Fabi. Fabi was able to lock up, move her to the ground. Edwards countered, but Fabi was able to hit some arm drags. They worked into a standoff where both of them just one-upping each other. They traded leg kicks. Fabi was able to then take her back down to the ground and hit it by hitting a slam and then a leg drop. She followed with a Romero special. Alicia Edwards then escaped and hit a Hurricane Rana herself. She tried to lay in a couple of her shown strikes, punches. She went for an inside cradle, tried to roll her up, but Fabi kicked out. Fabi then cut off her offensive move with a super kick. She went for a cover, but she was unable to get the pin as Edwards kicked out at 2. Edwards then actually fired up with some strikes and a clothesline, and she hit a flatliner. She went for another pin attempt. Fabi kicked out. Edwards then headed up to the top rope, and she hit a cross, but Fabi actually cuts her off, catches her, and then hits a sit-out power bomb for the finish. So your winner of this match, Fabi Apache. Match was good. Alicia's still kind of awkward, in the ring, but as far as how her her offense looks, it looks like she's still moving along. They're going to continue to put her with more veteran type wrestlers to mold her skills, and You know, one could argue maybe she shouldn't be on TV right now. Maybe she should be down in Booker T school or the Dudley school or, you know, OVW or some form of development. She shouldn't be on TV maybe. But, you know, that being said, she's not, you know, awfully bad. We then go backstage. We see Takano. He cuts a promo on the champ, on Austin Aries. Basically says, you're in Mexico. This is his place. Blah, blah, blah. He's going to beat him tonight. Scarlett Bordeaux announces that she's got a huge announcement for next week. We then see Pentagon and Phoenix take on Matt Sydal and Rich Swan. Before I get into the match, I do want to note there was a couple segments, like a segment in which KM and Fallah Bahh we didn't talk about last week. It was a great segment. If you didn't get to see it, KM and Fallah Bahh, it built up all night to Fallah Bahh getting a shot at Austin Aries Championship. He was not successful. And also last week, Moose explained why he turned his back on everybody. And it was just essentially, it's business. So let's get into the match, though. Pentagon and Phoenix went ahead and went one-on-one with Matt Sydal, or 2-on-2 with Sydal and Rich Swan. This crowd actually was pretty excited for Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix, going pretty freaking crazy. Now, the match began. They ended up working back and forth in a standoff of series encounters. Sydal and Pentagon tagged in and out. Sydal was talking, of course, his third eye stuff to Pentagon Jr., but Pentagon Jr. didn't buy it. He laid in some stomps and some kicks to his abdomen, then tagged into Phoenix. Phoenix then hit him with a Phoenix cutter after a double team move. Pentagon Jr. then took out Swan, and then basically the Luchas kind of ran wild with kicks, double teams. Pentagon Jr. lighted up Sydal with a couple different chops, and then Sydal was able to fight back, and he was able to cut him off, went for a 2 count. Swan then tagged in, and he was able to lay in a couple strikes and kicks of his own. Then Sydal tagged back in, but Pentagon Jr. was actually able to fight both of them off. He tagged in Phoenix, who hit the double cutter. Phoenix then followed it up with a top tornillo. Swan then cut off Phoenix and followed it with a dive to the floor. Then went to a commercial break. We come back to the commercial break, and Phoenix flies in with a high cross, but Sydal cuts him off with a knee strike. Swan then tags in, and that's what all breaks down with all 4 in the ring. Swan and Sydal both hit hurricanranas off the top rope. They both then head up to the top rope, but both Phoenix and Pentagon Jr. cut them off. They hit a double apron stomp. Pentagon then Jr. hit the package pile driver. Phoenix hit the Blackfire driver, and they got the win. It's like, I don't know, it felt like 13, 14, 15 matches. 15 minutes. It felt like 13 to 15 minutes, so not a bad match. I enjoyed it. Like I said, the crowd was, hot, itself. I would say, though, it did feel like there was a lot of back and forth, so a lot of intensity, a lot of high moves, high impact moves, which, of course, you're going to expect from all 4 competitors and in Mexico City, so, they're trying to keep the crowd engaged. Post-match, though, this is where OVE came out. They tried to come out and, try to take out Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix. However, Brian Cage made the save and he ran them off. We then go backstage. We see Austin Aries. He cuts a promo on Takano. He says that he's only facing him since, he's basically gone ahead and took everyone out. He then said he looked at the translation of Takano, and it translates to Texan. And then says, there's nobody else in Mexico that's good enough, so they had to go get somebody else from Texas to pretend he's from Mexico. Sort of along those lines, alluding to the fact that he's the best and he's beaten everybody. We then go to another backstage segment with Desi Hit Squad. They're getting massages. They're talking finally about getting their tag team opportunity next week. Gama Singh arrives, and he beats on them. Then it goes to them kind of training some more, and he then makes them hit and kick each other to train for next week's match. Then he's actually pleased, wishes them luck, and says, be on your way. We got another wacky kind of song from Joe Hendry and Katrina and Grotto. So, of course, I haven't reported the last couple of weeks, but want to make notion that, last week it was revealed that Katrina actually did not like Grotto, that she's been trying to be with Grotto the whole time, but Grotto fired back and gave her the old denied and said, no hoes before bros in this case. We then go to the GWN flashback. It's an Ultimate X match this week with Chris Sabin, Petey Williams, Bentley. We got a video package on Tessa, Su Young, and Ali. This was a pretty cool part of the night. It's announced that Abyss is going to be inducted into the Impact Hall of Fame. You know, no better person deserving. Guy's been with that company for 17 years. He's been with them since day one as Justice. You know, Joseph Parks, the character, everything he's done for that company. He's had multiple opportunities, as he said on the record, to jump over to WWE, and he never took that opportunity. So that's how dedicated he's been to this brand. And for that, Mr. Abyss, we salute you here at One Wrestling. All right, we then go to the main event of the evening. It's Austin Aries versus Takano. Moose and Cross are both out with Aries. They lock up, and Aries picks up the pace, takes early control, and hits a couple arm drags. The basement dropkick follows. Takano powers back. He hits a senton Optomicos, what I wrote here. Aries backs off, and Takano mocks him. Aries attacks with some boots, stuns Takano off the ropes, but Aries senton Optomico to his knees. Takano lays in rights as they work to the floor. They go to commercial break. We come back, and we see Aries raking his back. Takano fired back with rights, and he then, of course, raked the back of Aries to kind of, give him the old rake itself. Rake. Nice to see a rake. I haven't seen a rake in a match in a while, by the way. It's very old school. The backbreaker fall, and Takano fired away with chops and a leg lariat. He went for a pinfall. Only got 2. Aries then went to the floor, and he teased like he was going to walk out of the match. Takano then went and got his bull rope, distracting the ref, and gets the title, and the ref takes it. Takano grabs the rope. He hits a super kick and whips Aries with the rope, covering for a 2 count. Aries then basically fights back, hits the brainbuster, and we get the win. 10, 11 minutes, I think. Again, some around that time, I think is what I wrote here. I want to tell you, though, this was probably a little bit disappointing. I feel like that they were working a little bit slower. Like that, there was like not really any sense of urgency to with as far as in the match itself. Because I mean, the crowd was pretty hot. But at this point, where they were moving, it didn't seem to sit well with the crowd, and they seemed bored. They were probably, of course, trying to deliver more of an old school style there, and they're in Mexico, and Mexico is, probably expecting, more of that lucha libre. So that being said, though, I, thought it was a good match. Did I say main event? I don't know why I wrote main event. We then get Johnny Impact video. Teasing not being medically cleared after that match. He says, and he's might not be medically cleared for Bound for Glory to take on Austin Aries. Aries says he knows what's up, and he actually knows that Impact is in the arena, right? He's like, I know you're on the Tron. I know you're actually here. So he basically walks up, or he's like, Impact does not arrive, essentially. Because what happens is Cross and Moose go up the ramp, and then Aries is jumped from behind by Impact, and then he takes him out one by one until Eddie Edwards comes out and he helps him, and they're Aries, Moose, and Cross leave the arena with Eddie Edwards and Impact standing tall. Johnny Mundo, Hennigan, Storm, Nitro, whatever. We then, and I'd say next week, Fabi Apache is going to go one-on-one with Tessa Blanchard. Desi Hit Squad is going to go one-on-one with LAX. Jay Chris versus Cage, Ali and Hogan versus Su Yung, and the Undead Maid of Honor. There wasn't a main event match, but it wasn't the end. But that post-match was the conclusion itself of Impact Wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for me here today. I hope you enjoyed Impact Wrestling. Drop your comments below and let me know your thoughts. Go ahead and hit us up at One Wrestling. You can hit me up on Twitter at Mathew_Shaffer. You can also follow me on Instagram at Mathew_Shaffer. If you so please and you want to interact with other wrestling fans, I also do moderate Hameen Media Group Twitter account at Hameen Media Group. They have hackerhameen.podbean.com, which includes Big Ray, Rick Vickery, and Michael Jargo, who are also represented right here on One Wrestling, and they do audio content with Ben Hameen, Blue W.O. Order, Stevie Richards, the Greek God Pop Down, Vic Sal, Steve King, Andrew Bello, Billy Ray Valentine, Crow 777, Josh Ryan Corey, Fame Black, and so much more. So go ahead and check them out there, Mathew_Shaffer. Again, this is the Impact Wrestling Report. Don't you go too far. We'll see you next week on the IWR. Woo!